we have scrambled Stugotz and put together in too quick a time. It's never happened this quickly, this sloppily, where we're just throwing together a looks-like tournament. It seems to have been a lot of miserable work for Billy. We appreciate all the help of the fans basically writing this thing for us, but you have to wade through a lot of things that aren't very good to get to the 68 that are. So we're going to give you a brief taste here, Stugotz, as we get started today. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to have an Oscars review here from Adnan Virk, and evidently David Samson is also furious that Adnan Virk is on what was a red carpet that's no longer a red carpet. We've eliminated the red carpet, but Adnan Virk was on it last night. We are not the show that loves award shows. I don't know how many of you watch the Oscars, but Samson and Adnan Virk obsess over it. They care about the movies deeply. I don't know if Mike Ryan feels like Tom Cruise was robbed last night as they gave a bunch of thespians awards.
He didn't even care because he knows how political Hollywood is. Yep. Enjoy your little award show that only exists because Tom Cruise saved the entire movie industry.
Yeah.
Well, Adnan Virk has opinions on all of the big movies, and Samson wants in as well, so we will see if Samson gets a corner of this.
Yeah, Tom Cruise didn't have to show up to get patted on the back. He was back out there working, being disavowed by his government, putting together an epic Mission Impossible.
He wasn't nominated for Best Actor, was he? The movie was nominated for Best Movie.
Yeah.
It should have won Best Movie.
Ever.
It should have. Ever. You're right. Correct.
Put it on the poll, please.
It's the movie we needed. It saved the theaters.
It saved everything.
Yep.
Juju at LeBatard Show, put it all on the poll. Is Tom Cruise the movie we needed? It saved everything. And should it be the best, win all the awards for any movie ever?
But we digress. I know you're trying to set up March Sadness here, and this is exciting because every March Sadness, one of the new recent themes are we have a voice do it. So we're going to learn together who our voice is for this tournament.
We are going to learn together, but I am a little worried in general, not knowing who the voice is, at how sloppy and shoddy this was in terms of everyone seems to have forgotten that March is the same time every year. That the looks like tournament
never changes.
It's always there, and Stugotz has even been warning us for weeks now that we've got a March.
Oh, do we ever? I mean,
and for some reason we just slapped this whole thing together. But let's give people a taste here. Houston lost yesterday. Stugotz lost to Memphis, but Kelvin Sampson is still out there getting it done. Kelvin Sampson and them boys. And Houston is a 1 seed. That means this is a 1 seed.
Travis Kelce looks like the one white guy at an HBCU.
The voice is Juju. The voice of the tournament is Juju.
Got a great set of pipes.
Number 16, Northern Kentucky is represented by
Daniel Snyder looks like your Uncle Jeff, who just need 23 grand until this whole jet ski thing blow over.
I love the voice. By the way, March Sadness is brought to you by our friends over at Dollar Shave Club.
Number 4, Indiana is represented by
Pete Carroll looks like a golden retriever named Daisy.
Pete Carroll looks like a golden retriever named Daisy.
I'm not sure what happened there.
That's okay.
That was Juju as Goat Piss Mike from a couple years ago.
He also looks like he has a golden retriever named Daisy.
Juju was doing the voice of Goat Piss Mike.
It's one of the most unbelievable things I've ever heard was his instant ability to go from just sounding like Juju to sounding like Goat Piss Mike within seconds.
Again,
Pete Carroll looks like a golden retriever named Daisy.
It's
That's the best limited fake we have.
It's amazing.
What if that's Juju's real voice and the voice that we believed is his real voice is just a put on?
Wow.
Juju is a character?
13, Kent State. Kent State is represented by
John Tortorella looks like he refuses to say tall, grande, or venti when ordering a coffee at Starbucks.
Torts.
He does refuse.
The Golden Flashes out of the Mid-American.
I want to hear that one more time.
John Tortorella looks like he refuses to say tall, grande, or venti when ordering a coffee at Starbucks.
Do you want to hear it one more time because Stugotz was laughing as soon as he heard Tortorella and you didn't hear the rest of it?
John Tortorella looks like he refuses to say tall, grande, or venti when ordering a coffee at Starbucks.
Just give me a goddamn small.
Number 5, Miami suffered a brutal injury that ruined Mike Ryan's entire weekend, I am sure. Number 5, Miami is represented by...
Tyler Hero looks like he claims Machine Gun Kelly has done more for hip-hop than Dr. Dre.
Wait, who got injured?
So he just says idiotic things, baby food. He just says idiotic things about hip-hop. Number 12, Drake is playing against Miami, and that is represented by...
Bruce Arians looked like a car that needs more coolant.
That's a great one.
Thank you to Dollar Shave Club for presenting that, and there'll be more matchups throughout the show and throughout the week. I think Juju's going to do quite well with this.
We're going to have, I guess, almost 60 more teams to introduce you to. I think we just previewed out of the Midwest some of the Friday games. We'll be doing that every day of the week. Stugotz, a couple of things from the weekend in sports that I wanted to talk to you about before we bring in Adnan Virk here to talk about the Oscars. You saw that the Chicago Bears have the possibility of being good quickly with salary cap space and draft picks, and they just got DJ Moore. I saw some great stats on DJ Moore, Stugotz, that his number of receptions right now, he's 25 years old. This is from Chris Emma.
Mm-hmm.
His number of receptions would put him in 5 years third on the all-time Bears list, behind only Walter Payton and Matt Forte. So it tells you how bad their quarterbacks have been, that they presently got the best one they've ever had, that Jay Cutler is the best one statistically, and that all they've done for 40 years is throw the ball to the back out of the backfield.
Their leading wide receivers or running backs?
They're leading wide receivers in receptions, that he in 5 years in Carolina, at 25 years old, he's only 25, that he's had as many receptions as all but 2 Bears ever, but his 5,000 yards, more than any Bear ever. He'd be their leading receiver ever if just what he did in Carolina was transferred over.
When you think back to their receivers that they've had over the last 25 years, Marty Booker, like
Willie Galt.
Yeah,
Brandon Marshall.
Yeah.
I guess
Willie
Curtis
Galt was not any good there. He
No.
was just fast.
Willie Galt was great. He had one job to do: be fast.
But he wasn't actually good statistically. I
Curtis
don't think
Conway?
he's on any all-time records. I mean, Allen Robinson is one of their best receivers ever.
That's sad because he was not good there.
No.
He had his best years in Jacksonville, and then he turned into a shell of himself.
Still young though, and available.
What are
The
you doing with
Reclamation
Willie
Project.
Galt? I mean, and my memories of Willie Galt.
I mean, he was just fast and he was okay, and he would indeed. He was only able to get you one kind of reception. He'd have one catch every 4 games for 60 yards.
It was a great trade. It was a great trade for Chicago. It was awesome.
It really was.
Well, not only is it a great trade for Chicago, one of the things that it sets up that is just so cool is at the moment, Stugotz, we don't know what Carolina. There are 4 guys everybody wants at quarterback, and I don't know which is the one that Carolina is going to take. Do we know whether it's Stroud, whether it's Young? Do we know whether it's Levis? Do we know whether it's Richardson? Do we know who they want to take?
I would probably go Stroud there, but we don't know. We don't know.
Only Frank Reich knows.
We just know that it's not going to work out for Carolina.
And it's finally not an old guy.
Yeah.
I heard the most sports radio thing ever this weekend. I was driving around listening like after this trade happened, and I think it was like on 940. I don't remember what it was, but it was like a national show. And the host is like, I've been thinking about this all night. I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina trades that pick. Whoa! And I was like, this is the craziest thing I've ever heard. This may be the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Just that they get a better offer than the one they gave for
that
the
guy just
Bears.
watched Draft Day. Yeah, he watched Draft Day.
But you do have 4 quarterbacks, and you don't know. They're probably going – they're going to be, Stugotz, I'm guessing there's going to be people evaluating talent that are going to say what Richardson did at the Combine. I don't care what he was in college. I want that athleticism as the sport changes. Maybe somebody tries to get up to get him because I don't know what's going to happen here, but I imagine there are a lot of different assessments of the top 4 quarterbacks. I don't think all the opinions are going to be the same. I think some people are going to have them ranked in a lot different order as to who they think is the best.
And if you need one, you can get the first pick and you're sold on one, you know the guy you're going to take, then you go up there and you get him. And that's what Frank Reich did.
You've had 4 top 10 quarterbacks. That's what's in play, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and Richardson just played his way. He just ran his way in the combine.
Tested his way.
He jumped his way.
He
Took off his
tested
shirt his way.
Yeah, he jumped and ran and took off his shirt.
Like, wow, that's number 1 pick right there. Cam Jackson.
Adnan Virk is here. He was on the carpet last night. He believes his Oscar analysis and movie analysis is second to none, and I am not going to argue with him. You could check out his podcast, Cinephile, here on the Le Batard and Friends Network. We're very excited to have someone here who was so close to the action last night. So quickly, I know you've got a lot to say, and I know you talk very fast. Your broad macro takeaways from what it is that you witnessed yesterday that was most interesting, most exciting to you.
Well, it was amazing, Dan, to be back there on the red carpet and be among my people, so to speak. And honestly, the buzz was back. It's been a long time since you've had an Academy Awards in which one film really captivated people. And you've had this system the last few years, this preferential ballot where one film wins a couple of Oscars, this wins a couple of Oscars. No, last night was an old school juggernaut, everything, everywhere, all at once, dominating the Oscars and doing so in a way we haven't seen in a long, long time. Winning 7 Academy Awards and the big ones, of course, Best Picture and Best Director and the 3 acting categories. So I thought from a big picture, macro point of view, as you said, it was a good show. It was well produced. Jimmy Kimmel's a terrific host. I thought he got some great zingers. He got to the elephant in the room, the slap, did it early, did it a couple of times, did it at the end. I thought it was an excellent show and really entertaining. And I agreed with most of the winners, which is rare.
You were on the champagne carpet last night, and you're in your home right now. You're still wearing a tux.
It's weird.
Wait, did you just hop on the plane wearing your tux?
That's right, Mike. I was there. You know, I recorded Cinephile, and I said, you know what? I still have that vibe. So I went to In-N-Out, and I celebrated what was an incredible night for me and for the Academy. And then I hopped on a red eye, and now I'm here in my basement. And I said, you know what? Let me just, for the sake of, verisimilitude, I will keep the tuxedo on. Maybe you can green screen me and people are watching. They'll think I'm still there in Los Angeles.
And then Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. It is a movie that is unlike any ever made, correct?
Yeah, and the greatest thing about it, Dan, is that it's so difficult to categorize. You know, the amount of texts, I got Booger McFarlane asking me, what's it all about? And I said, I can't answer that. He said, come on, don't be evasive. And I said, it's a science fiction, martial arts comedy. It's about laundry. It's about a woman doing her taxes. It's Michelle Yeoh getting the performance of a lifetime. But as you said, the reason why it received such a rapturous reception was because it's different. If you love the film, it's because it's audacious, it's original, and it's risky. And it's weird. There's no question about it. It's a weird movie. And if you didn't like it, and by the way, it's okay to be a detractor, it's too long, and it's too strange, and it's too absurd, and it's too self-indulgent. You can have all those varying opinions. But those that loved it appreciate the fact it really is a film which you're throwing everything in the kitchen sink at the screen, and it ends up being a surprisingly moving mother-daughter story.
Best Supporting Actress. Did you agree with the winner there?
I didn't, Roy. I love Jamie Lee Curtis. She's a terrific actress, but this was truly the Lifetime Achievement Award. So Angela Bassett was expected to be the winner going into Oscar season. She wins a couple of major awards, a Golden Globe Award. But Carrie Condon also made a push with The Banshees of Inisherin. She won the BAFTA Award. For those who are aware, the British Academy Awards, she wins Supporting Actress. So it felt like it was going to be between those two. Then the Screen Actors Guild happened, and Jamie Lee Curtis won. Now, historically, the SAG Award winners, which is actor, actress, supporting actress, 3 of those 4 line up at the Oscars. Historically, it's very rare that you go 4 for 4. Last night, we did go 4 for 4. The SAGs were the perfect indicator of what would happen. And sometimes it can be an outlier because they can say, well, let's just reward this person for their body of work. But here's what happened. Jamie Lee Curtis did not give an Oscar-worthy performance in Everything Everywhere All at Once. But the film's a juggernaut. People love the movie, and they love her. And she's had an incredible career, going back to Trading Places and one of my favorite movies ever, A Fish Called Wanda. And Wakanda Forever is, again, an entertaining spectacle, but I don't think that's Angela Bassett's best performance, Roy. You and I know that's What's Love got to do with it, which was 30 years ago. So the voters said, okay, do we give Bassett the Lifetime Achievement Oscar? Do we give Jamie Lee Curtis the Lifetime Achievement Oscar? Or the best one in the category is probably Carrie Condon for The Banshees of Inisherin. okay, we'll go with Jamie Lee Curtis. And she gives a beautiful speech. Listen, we can all make fun of the pomp and circumstance of the Oscars. I'm with you guys. It's self-indulgent and it's narcissistic, but there's some great speeches. Ke Huy Quan for supporting actor, and Jamie Lee Curtis' speech last night was beautiful. She thanked her parents, Tony Lee Curtis and Janet Leigh, legends, right? Tony Curtis, Some Like It Hot, Janet Leigh in a Hitchcock Psycho, and she says, my parents were nominated, and now I won the Oscar, and she burst into tears. It was a really, really beautiful moment, and I wish I could do a Tony Curtis impression, but I don't know if I could. Tony Curtis, I could take that guy, Cary Grant, that chump back in Some Like It Hot.
No one needed a Tony Curtis impersonation.
Who's Tony Curtis?
I also wish you could do a Tony Curtis impression.
I wish you didn't do it.
Can you tell us, because I want to talk to you about some of the stuff that happened in memes and shadows, but when Angela Bassett isn't applauding Jamie Lee Curtis's victory there, what did you do with that?
Dan, this is one of my favorite moments. When I watch the Oscars, when they announce it, I have to quickly tweet, okay, I'm right, I'm not right. And then I immediately rewind it. And Dan, I do it multiple times because I have to see what the winner's reaction is. Jamie Lee Curtis was great, by the way. She goes, oh, get out of here. And she did the same thing when she won the SAG. She said, oh, come on. Like, really? Me? Like, no, that's not right. So I see the winner's reaction first. Then I watch the others' reactions, and I'm not quick enough, so it takes me one viewing to watch two of them and then one viewing to watch two. On the first viewing, all of us saw Angela Bassett was not pleased. And what I look for is this, not just the countenance, not just their facial expression. Do they pretend to give a smile, but they're clapping? And Bassett looks so pissed. This is my moment. I was supposed to win. And now Jamie Lee Curtis, again, it is not an Oscar-worthy performance. She's fine in the movie, but that's not her best work. And Bassett's going, I'm in Wakanda forever. I am regal. I am statuesque. I was supposed to win. And it would have been a historic award, by the way, first ever acting Oscar win in a Marvel movie. So I'm always amused, Dan, when that happens. I'm like, wow, just don't even happen. Billy Crystal, who I loved in Mr. Saturday Night, was nominated for the Tony Awards this past June. And when the winner was announced for the Michael Jackson musical, Billy Crystal didn't smile. He didn't clap. He looked thoroughly pissed. I said, all right, you get to a certain age, you go, I'm not even going to pretend. I'm mad I didn't win, period.
And let's get to the big story of the night, Maverick. Maverick was robbed. That movie saved everything. It saved Hollywood. It saved the theaters. It saved the world. It deserved a better fate.
It saved everything.
Yes.
Everywhere. All at once.
Yes.
Here's what is undeniable, Stu. And for those who don't know the story, part of what Stu is referring to, at the Oscars lunch where they all meet, Steven Spielberg went up to Tom Cruise and said, thank you for saving the movie. You saved Hollywood's ass. Exactly. That's Steven Spielberg saying that to Tom Cruise. Now, we're not going to go on my Tom Cruise crusade and why I dislike him and all the rest of it. But it's undeniable that Top Gun Maverick brought people back to the theaters, made $1 billion, and was universally lauded and appreciated by audiences and critics. It wins the Oscar last night for sound. So at the very least, Stu, you can walk around and go, hey, Top Gun is an Academy Award-winning film. But to your point, if you want a little bit more than sound, you walked out disappointed. How surprising, no Tom Cruise last night. I don't know if he was off, abusing people with Scientology as his method or whatever he's doing, but surprising. Tom Cruise was not doing it.
And then he was off filming Mission Impossible, saving movies again.
Yep.
You enjoyed your red carpet. Or
like
your champagne carpet.
Like one of these days, Tom Cruise, he's so proud of all these stunts. I'm going to tell one of these stunts is going to go awry. Okay, I'm just telling you. You can't keep going to your motorcycles off the Burj Khalifa. Eventually, things are going to go wrong.
What are you doing?
All right,
you said everything. And by the way, best sound, no one cares. Tell me who won best sound 5 years ago. Go ahead, I dare you.
Okay.
I mean,
no, you're right. 5 years ago, not Max Fury Road. I can remember that one.
Right.
Well, before we ask you a variety of other things, including how Hugh Grant handled one of his interviews, I do want your minute. I don't believe anyone's gotten it here, even though they have gotten it on Cinephile, of your great distaste for Tom Cruise, because I believe people here will find it blasphemous.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it'll enrage and it will not endear, but I am proud of my stance, which is this. I think he's a horrible human being. And I understand we like to separate art from the artist. And oftentimes I can do that. I recognize a lot of these people are not people that are worthy of adulation. But in the case of Cruise, once I watched the documentary, it's called Going Clear, The Case Against Scientology. It's by Alex Gibbity. It's readily available on HBO and HBO Max. That film details just how cruel and abusive Scientology is and how it is not a religion. It is a cult, and it deals with people in such an inhumane manner. And here's the biggest issue with it. If you try to leave Scientology, they harass you, they belittle you, they ridicule you, they cause undue damage to you. So why is that Tom Cruise's fault? Well, David Miscavige is the guy who runs Scientology, the cult leader. And of course, him and Tom Cruise are best buddies. It might as well be Cruise's consigliere, his guy. He is the best-known Scientologist in the world. If Cruise just once said, hey, Miscavige, let's take a knee. I'm not sure if some of these acts are appropriate. I'm not sure we should be doing this. Things would change. But because Cruise is unwilling to do so, he's complicit in the damage that it causes, and I refuse to stand idly by and say this guy's a great person. I will not deny he is undeniably charismatic. He makes really entertaining movies. He's made a ton of money. He's worked with some great directors, but he is such a ridiculous human being, and he stands for something I just can't abide by, Dan. I can't support the guy. I just can't do it.
Yep.
That's what I think of you.
Well said.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Well, Mike, that
I
was very eloquent on all of Adnan's virtue signaling, not understanding the greatness that
Guy's
is
in a
the
tux because Tom
thespian.
Cruise saved movies.
Tom Cruise is
sorry. He'll get around to fixing Scientology, which I think over the last few years has kind of lowered its profile some.
Like the rest of Hollywood is clean.
No, Mike, it did not lower his profile. We watched the Super Bowl. There was a Scientology commercial. I almost threw my flat screen through the window. It was awful.
A flat screen provided in part because you do a podcast on movies in which Tom Cruise saved. You're welcome.
Okay, and I regret asking for the politics of this. I just want to cover the Oscars. I want to avoid all Scientology.
Yeah, you asked him a goddamn question, Dan Le Batard. You're not scathing either.
Give us a minute.
You're going to be there, middle seat,
Right.
when he gets disavowed by the government again.
I love that one.
I have a number of other questions. The studio, Adnan, A24, how common is what they've done over the last decade where now they win everything?
Dan, it's incredibly uncommon and it's remarkable. You know, if you looked at the best eras of movies, the 70s was incredible because that's when the major studios actually took risks with filmmakers and did their personal projects, which became unsurprisingly box office successes. So you had Scorsese making Mean Streets and Spielberg making Jaws and Coppola making The Godfather. And there were films that critics loved and also audiences loved. Like The Godfather made a ton of money and also won Oscars. And then over time, it shifted. The most popular movies didn't win the Oscars. They won the box office. And you see that now with Marvel movies. Ant-Man will make $93 million, but of course it's not going to be nominated for Best Picture. And in the 90s, you had this great run of movies, the independent films, namely Miramax, which has now since been tarnished and disgraced because of Harvey Weinstein, but you had Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, etc., Fargo. So A24 is almost a hearkening back to that. You've got an era now as Barry Jenkins, the great filmmaker of Moonlight, Florida State's own, by the way, who has said to me that now in Hollywood, you can either get a movie for $2 million or $200 million. Either it's a superhero with IP, intellectual property, or it's a shoestring budget on a personal project. So here's where A24 comes in. They said, we're actually going to make independent films with budgets of $5 million or $7 million or $10 million, but they're going to be risky and artistic, and we're going to take chances. And not all it's going to work, but it's going to be an outlet for those movies that a lot of us love growing up, movies like Sling Blade and movies that were off the beaten path. So for a movie like this, fellas, to come out in late March, early April, they're hoping to make, $10 million, $15 million. It became the word of mouth hit of the year. Every week, it wasn't number one, but it was in the top 10. So little by little, 3.4 million, 2.3 million. You add that up. Everything Everywhere All at Once grossed $75 million and won 7 Academy Awards. That is gigantic. That is the equivalent of the Jaguars winning the Super Bowl. Like it is shocking to see a movie like that from a production company like that become a juggernaut like that. It was amazing.
I thought Hugh Grant was an asshole. I also thought the interview was terrible. And I understand why he was bothered by the emptiness of the questions.
Both can be true, Dan, and here's what it was. When he said it's a Vanity Fair night, he's referring to the Thackeray novel from the 1880s, which is a reference to high society and glitz and glamour. And of course, she didn't know what that meant. Don't think most people would, in fairness to her. And when she heard Vanity Fair, I mean Vanity Fair party. So that happens sometimes. You guys know this. When Stugotz asks Ryan Fitzpatrick, how do you tackle a water slide? That's it. You've lost him. Like you ask one question they don't like, it's over. So Hugh Grant saw that Ashley Graham doesn't understand Vanity Fair's The Thackeray novel. Well, screw you now. So every question she asked him, he's just shutting it down. Particularly when she said, how fun was Knives Out? He didn't need to say, well, I was in it for 3 seconds. He could have said it was a fun experience. I really enjoyed it. Have a nice night. But he wanted to make her look bad. Like I was in it for 3 seconds.
Is that your worst nightmare as somebody who, that's the one thing you don't want to happen, even though it's the only way to go viral.
Right. And here's the challenge for Ashley Graham. She's not going to ask him anything hard-hitting. She's not going to ask him about Montgomery Clift being an acting influence. Of course not. It's what are you wearing? Who are you wearing? How proud are you?
Oh, we were deprived.
Right.
Oh, if only we could have gotten the Montgomery Clift analysis that we were deprived.
Oh, is it extraordinary.
Well done, Mike. So, you know what you're getting, Dan. If you don't want to be interviewed, Hugh Grant, well, then don't consent to the interview. Those are the questions. Who are you wearing? What are you wearing? What are you most excited to see? What was your favorite film of the year? If you don't want to answer those, that's fine. But you are right. Ashley Graham could have gone in a different direction. It's really hard to say in the moment.
Once she was drowning, though, to Hugh Grant, the worst question you can ask him is, what are you wearing? And he's like, my suit. He wouldn't give her. He wouldn't get. And he's like, it was done by my tailor, and he wouldn't name the tailor. It was perfectly a Hugh Grant being an asshole.
But here's my thing. Sorry, Stu. Here's my thing, Dan. I love uncomfortable questions. Right? We all know about my history with Mike Schur. There's been no greater moment in the history of your show in the last 6 months than you telling Vince Wilfork he's an incredibly devoted, committed husband, and then he tells you, "I've got a new wife now." Like that to me is high comedy. I can't get enough of that kind of stuff. Hugh Grant last night was gold. That was a Vince Wilfork moment.
I am stuck on your tuxedo. Like, how long have you been home? Did you have time to take it off?
Don't be stuck on his tuxedo. This is exactly how we should be doing this. Real quick, before we get you out of here, did you have any take on when they're remembering all of the actors who have passed, forgetting or not highlighting Paul Sorvino or Anne Hesh?
Yeah, those are both notable ones, Dan. I'm always surprised that this happens. Like, don't we have a group of people who go, okay, with the risk of being morbid, who died? Are we missing anybody? Right? When you have a meeting, a show meeting, what are we missing? What do we need to get in here, right? Can we squeeze 3 seconds of Sorvino? I don't know how those omissions happen. I don't understand how you can miss that. I understand certain actors you go, well, he's not worthy of mention, but I would think a guy who was in Goodfellas, who was the father of an Academy Award winner, and Mira Sorvino should make it. And Anne Heche made quite a bit of movies. I mean, in the 90s, everyone would know what she did. I will say John Travolta coming out, surprisingly emotional. And I'm, for all the jokes for John Travolta, I was hoping he'd say the wickedly funny Adele Tazim, and we could relive the Adina Menzel nonsense. But the
so you're a Travolta guy, but not a Cruise guy. Interesting.
No, I'm not. I also don't like him. But what I liked about him was he got emotional, and it was genuine, Mike. As a music guy, he said hopelessly devoted to you, which was a reference to Olivia Newton-John. So I did think most of the time these people come out, they have no relation to the people who died. In this case, Travolta did at least seem to have a relationship, obviously, with Olivia Newton-John.
But how do you know it was actually emotional? He's an actor.
Well, it's another point of it too, Billy. That's why I love the speeches. And a friend of mine said to me, because they're all acting. Like none of these people are genuine. They're all
an important thing to question. Someone's grief.
When you're thinking, I mean, the best moments last night is when people were thanking their mothers. Like that was always the best part, was when you thank your parents.
You don't know.
So I think that is sincere.
Do you think Danny Zuko drowned in Australia, and that's why they had the surreal ending of floating into the sky? Spoiler alert.
Yeah, now we're spoiling.
It was just all like a fever dream.
It was all a dream. I mean, that's a possibility. But back to Billy's point.
Well, explain the car flying then.
I don't want to analyze Grease anymore.
Yeah, but back to Billy's point. Billy, yes, there's a point to that level of insincerity, but I think you just have to accept it and say Travolta is definitely an actor. Maybe it's 20% insincerity, 80% is genuine. You can make the own math in your head.
Before we let you get out of here, and again, I urge you to check out Cinephile, because he cares about the movies a great deal, and he breaks them down with a very, very thorough expertise. Before we let you go, just other observations from last night that we did not get to that you were excited about, titillated about, or you enjoyed.
So Ke Huy Quan's a great story. This guy won Best Supporting Actor. He didn't act for 30 years. He was in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and literally left acting, couldn't get a role. He gets the role of a lifetime in Everything Everywhere All at Once. He's winning all the awards going up to it, the SAG Award, the BAFTA Award, etc. So he sees Harrison Ford at a luncheon a couple months ago, and he goes, he's not going to remember who I am. And amazingly, Harrison Ford said, wait, whatever the character's name was from Temple of Doom. He says, are you this person? They have a big hug. It melts the internet. And his speech last night was great. Again, you can mock the artifice of the Oscars and the fact I'm wearing a tuxedo in my basement, but those are the moments people talk about when somebody who hasn't acted in 30 years gets to achieve his moment, which was wonderful. We've talked about Jamie Lee Curtis. And most of all, Dan, I go to the awards and say, what's the one Oscar I really want to see? And Stu will love this too. Brendan Fraser winning for The Whale. Again, A24 movie. This guy's a class act, and he's made some great movies. They're not necessarily Academy Award films, whether it's Encino Man. The fact that he and Ke Huy Quan were both in Encino Man, which is crazy. The fact he was in The Mummy. He was in Gods and Monsters. Terrific film with Ian McKellen, which I loved. I thought The Whale was a really immersive film. He plays an obese 600-pound man who's mourning the death of his lover, trying to reconcile with his daughter. It's a really challenging performance, but I loved it. And I was so glad that he won the Academy Award. I never thought Brendan Fraser would be an Academy Award winner, but he was certainly deserving of the honor. And also the Daniels, who won. And by the way, when they won Best Picture, they said, we've kind of run out of stuff to say. They won screenplay, they won director. a little look at me, Louie, when they said, all you need is someone to unlock your genius. My genius was unlocked. I said, wow, the humility has now gone out the window. Now that you've won 3 Oscars, you are mentioning yourself as a genius and your genius being unlocked. That removes some of the feel-good story. And last thought, we love Stan Van Gundy. I think he got to the Academy. The Banshees of Inisherin, I believe, had a really good chance at winning Best Original Screenplay. But after Stan Van Gundy's acidic take and screed against the film, it lost momentum. And Everything Ever All at Once wins for Best Original Screenplay.
No
I
way.
talked to 3 Hollywood insiders last night, and they go, have you heard about Van Gundy? They go, SVG killed the Banshees of Inisherin. All that donkey shite. He didn't want to talk about his frickin' donkey. So me and Jessica were very upset. The Banshees went home on did not do well.
Juju, put it on the poll. Is it a stretch to call Encino Man and The Mummy great movies?
Classics.
Adnan, thank you for being on with us. Again, urging the audience to check out Cinephile. Thank you, sir. Good seeing you. Still don't understand why you're still wearing the tux. Thank you, sir.
I think it's a great look, fellas. I'll talk to you soon.
You've
Stu,
been
I'll
home
see
for
you
3 hours.
Yes, it's very strange that you would wear the tux. I have to tell you, though, Stugotz, enraged David Samson was last night because he fancies himself as well a movie expert and an Oscar expert. He points out that he did better than Adnan picking the good movies, picking the movies or having success rate with the picking of movies. I think Adnan was 17-5 and or I think 17-6 and Samson was 18-5 or something. And here is Samson also wearing his tuxedo for some reason. He is trying to get in here and he doesn't feel. What are you making faces about, Mike?
Why
Ryan?
is he wearing a tux?
Well, because it's an important formal Vanity Fair type of occasion.
Yeah, but
It's
Adnan
the
was
next
actually
morning.
Adnan was at the award show. He hopped on a red eye.
Well, but Samson did better, and he wants this position that Adnan has as our first and leading correspondent on the movies.
Samson did better. Adnan covers the Oscars. There's a reason for him to be wearing a tux.
But you're saying Adnan was 17-5 in his picks and Samson did better than that? There's a thing? That's a thing? People do that?
Well, Samson, you here defend yourself. You were in the waiting room here while Adnan was talking. Is there anything that he said that you objected to or you thought that he got wrong?
That's not how the waiting room works.
Yeah,
Dan.
so let me explain how that works. I have no idea what the hell you guys are talking about. All I know is that I didn't sleep all night because after going 18-5, I went to the celebratory parties. I did not see Adnan there at all. And I'm still semi-good. I finished Nothing Personal this morning. I'm tired, but I am victorious. And by the way, just because you're the first doesn't mean you're the best.
Well, you are claiming that you do this better than Adnan Virk. So your takeaways from last night, if we were to pair this against Adnan Virk, the macro takeaways, the things that you found most interesting were what?
Well, Adnan is good at trivia, and he watches a lot of movies, and I'm just good at filling out pools and understanding the way the Academy thinks because I do the research and I watch all the movies, including all the categories that people generally blow off. I love watching the live-action shorts and the documentary shorts and all those things. What bothers me about you guys, and this isn't Adnan's fault because you've created him, right? You created this monster as Frankenstein. I just don't know what he brings to the show in terms of his movie acumen or in making your audience smarter. So, for example, when you watched the Oscars last night, there are the little things about Michelle Yeoh and the things that she is doing for the industry, or Kwan as well, that I think are important to be discussed on this show.
Are you wearing your World Series ring?
Yes, it's the Oscars. Bar mitzvahs, speeches, Oscars.
That's such a
and
giant
if
ring.
I'm around giving speeches to kids.
It's
Those
so
are sort
big.
of the criteria.
Have you ever seen a ring that big? Have you ever seen anybody wearing a ring that big other than your World Series ring?
Well, yes, but remember, when Jeffrey designed these rings, they were not meant for someone my size. They look way better like on Mike Lowell's hand or Conine's hand than they do on mine. But I didn't want, he asked whether I wanted a smaller ring, which I thought was rude. Because
Proportional, yeah.
I found that to be typical, right? Do you want a smaller ring because you're so small? Never heard that one before, Jeffrey.
Who was robbed last night?
For me, it was Angela Bassett.
No.
I expected her to win.
What do you
I
mean,
wanted her to
no?
win the
What
best
the hell are you
supporting
talking
actress.
about?
Maverick.
No, Maverick was lucky to just get nominated. But
get
I thought
out of
Judy
here.
Greer was
This is
good.
why we don't
Hollywood
go to
was
you.
lucky to be
Swept up.
saved. Get out of here. Lucky to be nominated.
Come on.
Like they were doing Top Gun a favor.
No,
the
they didn't
favor
do the
was
favor to
done
Top
when
Gun,
that,
they did it for
that
the
was
audience.
released.
The audience. By the way, the reason Top Gun was nominated was to get audience. They want mainstream movies, Avatar, Top Gun, because people saw those movies. They're billion-dollar movies. James Cameron could not have been happy. One of the big takeaways is the way that James Cameron was treated by Jimmy Kimmel, who did a great job hosting the show. He also brought up Will Smith a lot, which he was not supposed to do, but he did it in a better way than Chris Rock. He actually was better about it than Chris Rock was on his Netflix special. So A+ to Jimmy Kimmel.
Dan, have you gotten around to the Chris Rock special yet?
I finally did.
And?
Doesn't sound promising.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Did you laugh once?
No.
Come on, Dan.
You agree with me. He choked, right?
It was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Angela Bassett, you were saying.
I just think that her job, first ever Marvel character to be nominated, could have been the first ever to win. 64 years old. She was passed over for What's Love Got to Do with It in terms of winning. And it felt like last night was an opportunity to reward people who had not won before. I grant you, Jamie Lee Curtis had not. But Everything Everywhere All at Once, the worst part of that great movie was Jamie Lee Curtis, and she was still terrific. But I didn't think that she should have won. And Angela Bassett was the best part of Wakanda Forever.
Do you take this stuff so seriously that you don't get caught up in some of the cursory, formal nonsense of whether Hugh Grant is being interviewed correctly or whether, actors who have passed away are being remembered correctly? Or do you not care about that stuff because you're just obsessed with the details of the movies?
But I'm obsessed with the details of the show. So the in memoriam is always the most controversial part of the show because you can't get anyone in.
Well,
I
not
spoke
last
to someone
year.
who taught me how that works. It's so planned that if anyone happens to croak, post when it's in the can, pre when it airs, you are out of luck.
Still, though, it's days. It doesn't seem like that would make sense. It's not like Paul Sorvino died recently. It's not like Anne Hesh died recently.
It's rehearsed, though. It's in the can and rehearsed with Lenny. I feel like Lenny could have dragged out the song a little more to give me Anne Hesh. I found that to be disappointing. But it was a decision not to include the cinematographer from Rust. That was purposeful. That was a nod to Alec Baldwin, and that surprised me the most of anything on the show, actually.
Were you happier for somebody than you were for other actors winning, or disappointed for somebody in a way that took you or caught you off guard?
So if you listen to the speeches, what I loved was the representation, finally having the first Asian American actress, having Quan Nguyen, who had been, did you see him hug Harrison Ford when they won Best Picture? Remember, he met Harrison Ford when he was a kid in 1984. He hadn't seen him in decades, and now he won his own Oscar for Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I thought the speeches were amazing about dreams coming true. And it occurred to me thinking about it that people who give up on their dreams, that's the way it's possible for people to have their dreams come true, because so many people fall by the wayside. You just have to be persistent and stick it out. So if I want to be at the Oscars, for example, next year on the red carpet, I'm not going to give up because you think Adnan is better than I am. I'm going to spend the next year convincing you that I deserve to be your movie person because A, I know more, and I'm going to represent the show better, and I'm going to work hard. So I'm not going to give up on that. And I think we saw a lot of that during the Oscars last night.
You got to work hard. Adnan was actually there. He hopped back on a red eye after a quick In-N-Out burger. He was still wearing his tux because he was actually there. You're wearing your tux because you're a sociopath.
Okay? I'm wearing my tux because I am showing the proper respect. What is wrong with not dressing like a schlep? Just out of curiosity. Like,
You're
what
right.
is it about it that makes you upset that I'm in a tux?
Whittingham is furious that he's not here today to side with Samson on the idea that we should all dress formally more often.
You would agree, though, the morning after, you didn't go to the event, you're wearing a tux the morning after. It's a bit odd.
It's odd.
I wore it the night of, all night, and this morning. I only took it off to film Nothing Personal this morning. I kept the shirt, but I took the tie off.
You said,
no, but I wear it. I dress up to watch the Oscars.
You said Kimmel did well. Why did he do well? At least in part because he went near the Will Smith stuff, right? And
He didn't
always
go near it. He stomped on it.
and
He absolutely stomped
people
on
and they didn't want him to, right? Because the Academy is so formal, they want to move around that stuff, and he just did it anyway.
Well, there was an interview before the show started with Janet Wang, who's the head of the Academy, and she said, we're not talking about it. We've moved past it. We've put systems in place. I love that. There was a lot of mention of we have a crisis team in place. I'm not exactly sure what that means other than Spider-Man rappelling off the ceiling if someone goes to the stage, or Big John is there to stop people from accessing the stage. But clearly, they didn't want Jimmy Kimmel to do it. And he agreed to do the show and do the monologue if he had free editorial control. So he went after Will Smith, and he did it throughout the pendency of the show. And I thought his tone was perfect. I thought they let the show breathe more last night than they normally do. And it's okay that it went 3.5 hours. That's the one night a year where people want to hear from everybody. And they brought all the categories back in, and everyone was thrilled to honor everything, because making a movie, as you guys well know, it takes a lot of people.
Was Kimmel better than Gervais a few years ago?
Yes. Not better than Gervais in the Golden Globes, because at the Golden Globes, you really don't care, and you can be super funny and not respectful to the people in the room because everyone's hammered. You know, there was comments about who's high, and he spoke to Seth Rogen during the show, which made everybody a little uneasy. Like, are you on mushrooms? Are you smoking pot? And, you know, Seth Rogen said no, but of course the answer is yes. You don't go to that show if you're not stoned and you're Seth Rogen sitting there behind, you know, Steven Spielberg. What are you going to do? But you have to have an aura of gravitas that I think that Kimmel does better than Ricky.
What were the other things last night that surprised you? You were wrong on 5 things. How wrong were you?
Well, the ones I missed, I was surprised that Babylon didn't win production design. I got that one wrong. And then Best Actor, I really thought it was going to go to Austin Butler, because I thought they would honor Lisa Marie Presley by giving the Academy Award to Austin Butler, who obviously recently passed away. Brendan Fraser was so good in The Whale. I didn't have it right for makeup, because instead I went with Elvis and Tom Hanks. But I realized that Tom Hanks was so bad and Brendan Fraser was so good that I should have chosen The Whale. But Brendan Fraser is an example of someone who's had a full career, then disappeared, and then was given a chance by Aronofsky, who's a great director of great movies. And I'm glad he won, but for my pool, I was rooting for Austin Butler. And I knew that Adnan had chosen Brendan Fraser, but I didn't care because I knew I'd beaten him already, so it didn't matter. We didn't have enough different after that, so I knew I'd clinched the win. So I was like, just give it to him. Like in the movie when at the end of the game, just give it to him. That's what I did for Brendan Fraser.
I want to talk about Brendan Fraser's win a little bit, because you mentioned the director, Aronofsky, and if you look through his IMDb and you see the films that he did, and some of them are big swings, and admittedly some of them missed, but even in the misses, the one thing that you can say about a Aronofsky picture is that the performer that he picks is going to give their performance of a lifetime. Whether it's Black Swan, The Whale, The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke, he finds a way to bring out the best in his actors. Why is that?
And is he also one of the guys now, David, that you will seek him out as he's going to make interesting, ambitious choices with his films?
Well, he has his whole career. That's what he's known for. That's why he doesn't do a whole lot of films, because he's not going to do crap. He's going to do what is meaningful to him. But what do those have in common? So Brendan Fraser, Mickey Rourke, they are people. It's a reclamation story. And the movie is a reclamation movie. The Wrestler is pretty much the same concept as The Whale. If you look at the similarities between those movies, it's sort of shocking in terms of both the actors who did it and what the underlying story is, if you go a little deeper. And he loves that. Black Swan was a very dark movie, very controversial, because there were so many parents in suburbia in the city who said, no, that's not my daughter. No, that would never happen when I'm schlepping her to dance lessons and recitals for their first 10 years of their lives. But the reason the performances are so good is because he lets them do their job. These actors and actresses are very talented, and some directors get in the way. Darren is not one of them.
Other takeaways before we get you out of here. All of us still very confused why you're wearing a tux.
I really don't know why you're confused. It's the Oscars. People wear tuxes. I feel like if I were wearing a dress, would you be more confused or less
champagne carpet.
confused?
Yeah, but they generally, it's people who go. It's not people at home watching in their.
It's the Dan Le Batard Show on a Tuesday morning on YouTube. I mean, or Monday morning.
Monday, yeah.
Where are you right now?
That says it all. Stu,
you didn't
if
spring
I wanted
forward
to be more
a day.
like you, I'd wear a hoodie.
I wish we would. I know, but David, it's like, I mean, listen, you didn't go. It's like I make fun of Adnan. He dresses like Roger Federer when he's watching Federer matches from home. Like, what are you doing, man?
This is me showing respect for something that gives me that much love.
Oh, God.
I thought it was
I'm
Tuesday.
serious. Why? And I'm
like
not
a
embarrassed.
Tuesday.
You guys can make fun of me all you want. You're not going to
segment's
talk
been
me
so
out
long.
of this. If I am going to, that's why. Do you watch the credits for every movie you watch?
No.
Or you turn it off?
No.
Right, that's you. You have reckless indifference toward people who spend time to entertain you.
David.
That's a good way to describe Stugotz.
Yes.
Just generally reckless indifference.
Yes, that's what it's going to say on his tombstone.
You can check out
Mine
David
is gonna say
Samson
just was.
on Twitter at David P. Samson. Also, listen to Nothing Personal with David Samson.
Yes.
He and Coca do a good job.
Nothing personal. He is covering more ground than most people. That ring he just took off, it was hard to get it off. You are now getting undressed. Okay, he is leaving. He doesn't have to wear the formal wear anymore.
Finally.
It is over.
Jesus.
Stugotz is
On to
happy.
next year.
Stugotz is happy the segment is over in general. He didn't watch any of this. He thinks it's Tuesday. He wants to talk about Aaron Rodgers.
I've only seen Maverick.
He doesn't. That's the only Oscar
only thing you
movie
need to watch.
that's
The only thing, in a weird twist, I actually spent the entire Oscars watching baseball at the stadium that David Samson helped bilk taxpayers out of.
we will get to the
I want
world.
to talk to you about that, Mike. I'm going to talk about the WBC and why the conversion rate is so low, because I want to know if you're going to go to more Marlins games now that you had that experience.
Their
in Marlins
marketing
Park.
team cornered me.
Billy,
I think I ended up buying a timeshare from them.
Billy and Mike Ryan enjoyed the holy hell out of the World Baseball Classic and had to, like me, wonder, where are all these people when the Marlins play? Where are they? It's
We
so
tried to
much
find
fun.
them. We spent years trying to find them, and it turns out they care about their country. They don't care about their home team.
But that's
Well, I'm
crazy.
winning.
Well,
the
the
No,
good
it is
players
not
helped.
winning.
The good players helped.
No, it really is. We've asked, and it's not a price issue because we priced a whole section. We tried doing theme nights. Hey, if you liked being, if you're Dominican and came to the Dominican game, we're going to do a whole night. We're going to do a whole section. It's just going to be you. We'll allow all sorts of this and instruments, etc. And we'll do a $10 ticket. And it just, there was no flow through. Zero. The conversion rate is zero. It's terrible.
We will talk with him more about this when he joins us on Thursday, because the World Baseball Classic is here all week and the environment is crazy fun. It feels like something. It feels like international soccer come to baseball. The players are so much more excited than they are just playing regular season games. So we'll talk to you more about that Thursday, David, but I want to get Mike and Billy to tell us just a little bit, at least, about what their experience was there this weekend, because I know the two of you were eating up everything that was happening there.
I had a pretty spectacular experience, and I know we'll get into it a little bit later. You're waving to David Samson on the Zoom a little bit.
I'm telling him goodbye, telling him to get out of
we
here.
We can handle it. It's all good. We got there's too much meat on this bone, Dan. We're gonna have to do this
There's
next
too much,
segment.
Dan, yeah.
There's
Plus, you have to put your baseball uniform on.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
right.
So
So you don't have, with 3 minutes, you don't have quite enough space to get to this the way that you
not
want
nearly
to.
enough. I need the entire hour.
Oh, wow.
I need
To
the entire
talk
hour.
World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, little teaser. I watched the World Baseball Classic with Daddy Yankee.
Wow.
You did?
Yeah, I did. It's
In
the
a
only way to
box?
watch it. It's the only way to watch it.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at LeBatard Show. Is the only way to watch the World Baseball Classic with Daddy Yankee.
Oddly enough, he was in full uniform. It was very confusing.
Did he bring a glove? Well, that's what you do
Also,
on Oscar night.
Put it on the poll at LeBatard Show
On a
as
Tuesday.
well, Juju. Do you think it's Tuesday morning?